In the next 15 minutes, we'll be taking a comprehensive look at stories that made headlines around the continent this week. Hello and welcome to it. You're watching #Africa. I'm Tutuzile Ramela. An outbreak of the viral hemorrhagic illness Lassa fever has killed 110 people in Nigeria this year. The World Health Organization says the disease has hit 18 of the country's 36 states. Lassa is mainly transmitted to humans from rodents and is endemic to parts of West Africa. During his visit to Kenya, former U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson criticized the government for stifling media and threatening the courts. Nairobi shut down 3 TV stations in January and defied court orders to switch them back on. The channels had tried to show opposition leader Raila Odinga's self-proclaimed presidential inauguration. Tillerson has since been fired as Secretary of State, this upon his return from meeting African heads of state. And online music streaming service Spotify is trying to break into the African market. It launched in Johannesburg this week and says it plans to expand across the continent. Spotify claims to have 159 million users worldwide, with 35 million songs and 2 billion playlists. In a surprise move, Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta and political rival Raila Odinga appear to have set their differences aside. A peace deal was reached just before former U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson visited the East African nation, leading to questions about whether this was just a PR stunt or not. Let's explore what this all means. I'm joined by Africa analyst Sipho Mandula. Sipho, as always, a great pleasure to have you on the program with us. So Uhuru Kenyatta saying, and I quote, "We have a responsibility as leaders to find solutions. Elections come and go, but Kenya remains." What do you make of this newly found brotherhood?
Thank you very much, my sister. I think what is very important is that the Kenyan national interest has been centered around the unity of the Kenyans and as well as the issue around economic growth. So one can say that it is not only a public relations stand, but it is something that it has been worrying the Kenyans since the rerun of the elections in 2017. But one can say further that this is not only the issue between Odinga and Uhuru, because the other opposition parties are now doing the same approach, going closer to the Jubilee Party to engage in terms of their role in the nation building of Kenya. So one can say that this pressure as well has been the issues around economic growth and as well as the challenges around, one can say, their neighbors. As you are aware that Addis Ababa, there have been some tensions in Ethiopia and some of the refugees are going to Kenya now. So you have that challenge that if Kenyans are not united, then you will have an influx as well of refugees in that country.
But are they going to be riding into the sunset just yet? You rightfully mentioned that it's not about these two figures. They just happen to be the public faces that we have seen dominating the scene there. How have people around them in their camps accepted this news?
One will say that what they have done, my sister, is that there was, one can say that a role of intelligence, the role of family members from both sides, but as well as one can say that the Kenyans are the ones who will want to see the national unity. They will want to see jobs for the youth. They will want even to see that big brother in the East Africa growing once more. But one will say that one has not to be very comfortable because one has to look at the exit of Uhuru because age, it is catching up with him. But when you look at the other opposition parties, I think even them, they want to deal with the post-election crisis and as well as to deal with the issues around corruption, because Kenya, when you look, it is one of the countries that their MPs are highly paid, and it is something that they should be looking at the people's interest first rather than their personal interest. So it is something that the regional community of East Africa as well as the African Union should closely monitor it, because that's where one has to find that is the post-election talks working, and as well is the issue of the unity between the opposition and the ruling party going to work for the people of Kenya.
How do you answer someone that says, Sipho, that perhaps Uhuru Kenyatta should not have embraced Raila Odinga the way that he did? After all, he is the the opposition in that country?
One will say that it will not be proper because, as we have said earlier, it is not all about the elections. Kenya will still remain a nation that has been very peaceful, that has been very united on their challenges. But one can say that Raila has been very active, as you know, that during the time of Kibaki as well, he was the prime minister. So he has treated him as the former prime minister. And as well, the issue of investment, the visit of the American secretary to Kenya as well was one of the push and the pull factors that has pushed Uhuru to say, let me again extend my hand of unity and extend a hand of engagement with the senior elder statesman Raila Omolo Odinga. So one can say that it is something that one should not look at this as a minor move by Uhuru, but should be seen as a very strategic, diplomatic, but as well as to unify both tribes from the Luo to the Kikuya tribe. So it's something that the continent must look at it with a positive eye, not only with a negative eye.
And that's where we'll leave it. Always a great pleasure having you on the program. Sipho Mantula is an Africa analyst. After the break, a change of government is possible in the Democratic Republic of Congo as elections loom. Do stay with us. Welcome back. Elections to replace Democratic Republic of Congo President Joseph Kabila remain on course for late December. That's according to the government. Activists and church groups are skeptical after a delay of nearly 2 years. Kabila was due to step down when his mandate expired at the end of 2016, but has so far refused to do so. Mango Pua has the details.
Joseph Kabila has ruled the DRC since 2001. His opponents continue to suspect he intends to repeatedly delay elections until he can organize a referendum to let himself stand for a third term. His counterparts in the neighboring Congo Republic and Rwanda have done just that. Kabila denies those charges, saying elections are being delayed by budgetary constraints and voter registration challenges. But 2 years of repeated stalling have raised tensions across the vast African country, triggering street protests and armed rebellion. Confirmation of elections comes from the country's Prime Minister, Bruno Shibala, a former leading member of Congo's main opposition coalition. Another positive sign has been the message from one exiled opposition leader who's spoken from Johannesburg, saying he plans to return to stand in the ballot, and he's promising to open up the country's economy.
When I become president, I'll call the mining guys, I'll call the Chamber of Commerce of Congo. Let's dialogue. Let's see what is important. Today, he removed the stability code. Can you tell me the stability in the code? If there is no stability, even a dog can't come and invest in the Congo. Because no stability, no guarantee of the money.
Congo is similar in size to Western Europe and has plentiful resources. It's Africa's largest copper producer and is the source of more than half of the world's cobalt, a vital ingredient in mobile phone and electric vehicle batteries. Its output jumped 16% last year. President Kabila met with international mining companies last week on new mining laws that will increase the revenues the DRC gets from the operators.
Next to Asia, Africa is the fastest growing continent in the world. It's home to some 27 stock exchanges representing the capital markets of over 30 countries. The sixth largest one was in Johannesburg this week to showcase what West Africa has to offer. This week, I attended the BRVM Investment Conference. BRVM is an integrated stock exchange comprising 8 Francophone West African countries. They constitute an economic zone of more than 100 million consumers and a $91 billion market.
Africa is today, Africa is for the future also. I think that is important for international investors to look to Africa to see what is going on the continent and how the continent is transforming very faster. GDP growth in the WAMU during the last 5 years was on average 6%. And the perspective of growth of our region is about 7% in 2018 and maybe higher for the next years.
These economies are linked by a single currency and one central bank. The 8 countries have been growing at a combined rate of 6.5% per annum in recent years. This, of course, is music to investors' ears.
One of the things that's nice for investors is the currency is linked to the euro. So when you look at your returns, you're effectively looking at euro returns that you can make. It's a region of the continent that's growing very fast at the moment.
Like any other market, it hasn't been without challenges.
Liquidity is a big concern in that market. We're invested in Sonatel, which is a Senegalese telco, and it's the most liquid in that market, so the challenges aren't as difficult. But some of the smaller companies that are listed there are rather less liquid for large international pension funds.
However, the issue of liquidity is being addressed.
On the exchange, we do block transactions, and that's how any small market with low liquidity would cope with getting the investors in and out. But we're also bringing new IPOs. So the brokers are working to increase the size of the market with diverse companies being listed.
The BRVM market may be small in size, but it's an important market in Africa. The conference moves to London and New York next week. A quick look now at what's been happening on social media this week. A Ugandan MP has received flack for saying men should beat their wives. Onesimus Tunamasiko said on national TV that men should discipline their spouses. Ghanaians are in a huff over their government's proposal to ban smoking of the hookah. Research shows the use of hubbly-bubblies and e-cigarettes among young people has overtaken their use of traditional tobacco. And Zambia deported South African singer-socialite Zodwa Wabantu. She was scheduled to perform in Lusaka at the weekend, but on arrival at the airport, she was told her show was not in the public interest and would undermine national values. And Ethiopia recently held the second edition of the African Circus Arts Festival, which saw 11 circus groups from 6 African countries perform. Hundreds of locals came out to see acrobats, jugglers, contortionists and other acts on stage. The 3-day fair was organized by the country's Fekat Circus Group, which promotes performances, arts and provides opportunities for artists to showcase their talent. Organizers say the turnout this year was encouraging and the event has the potential to grow even further.
Beautiful, beautiful. I really love the energy of the audience as well. Even though I was dying and getting tired, but they're the one who keep me going and push it. So I'm really grateful to the fans as well.
What a treat. And that's it from us for now. Do stay tuned to ENCA for all the latest news. Take care and goodbye.